Welcome to the Field of 68 After Dark's YouTube channel. We are going to be live every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time right here on YouTube and on Stadium for the entirety of the spring. Who would you have at the top of your list? Like how does that kind of shake out for you? Because the way that I look at it, when you consider where Kelvin Sampson is kind of in terms of his career and his age, where Bill Self is, I probably would have UConn and Alabama at number 1 and number 2 for me. Is that a crazy take?
No, I mean, not crazy. I probably would have Kansas in there at 1 for me because I don't think Bill Self 10 years. I don't know if he makes it till 71, but I think he makes it to like 68. Okay, so I think Bill Self gives you 7 more years, and whoever Kansas hires, we know is going to be an elite coach, right? They're going to have their pick of pretty much whoever's out there for the most part at that point.
Mm-hmm.
They've got money, right? They're in the Big 12. They've got enough money. TV revenue. They got a great conference, all that. So I would probably go Kansas 1, UConn 2, and I'm not sure I'd go Alabama 3 yet. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I want to see it a little bit longer for Nate Oates, but obviously what he's done so far, and Kelvin, that's the hard part, right? Is Kelvin's getting up there. I bet Kelvin has 3 years left, would be my guess, somewhere around there. And then Kellen takes over, who I love, and I think he's going to be really good. But to keep it up at that level at Houston would be difficult to kind of predict. So I don't think I'd have Houston in my top 5. I would have Kansas 1, UConn 2.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I think Kellen will do a good job. I don't know if he will do a good job, as good of a job as his dad, because there are maybe, I think the only people that you could actually say that have done a better job than his dad over the course of the last 6 years are the 2 guys that you just mentioned, Dan Hurley and Bill Self. So that's if you're putting that level of expectation on Kellen when he takes over the job, like it's almost assuredly he's going to fall short of it. So I don't want to do that to him. I would have Houston in my top 10 though. Who else would you have up there? I'm bullish on where John Shire is headed with this Duke program. I'm also very bullish on where Hubert Davis is headed with that North Carolina program. But the one that's kind of interesting to me in this conversation is Gonzaga, right? Like we just saw Mark Few take a team that we thought was the end of the beginning of the end of the Gonzaga run and the Gonzaga dynasty, take them to a 5 seed, bring everybody back, and now have them as a top 5 team in America. He's another guy. I don't know how long he's going to be there, but it's very hard for me to not at least have Gonzaga in the conversation of the top 5 of this list.
Yeah, I would not have him in the top 5. I would not have him. No way. Because again, I think Mark Few's gone within 3-5 years. So to me, Bill Self, I think, gives you a little bit more. They've got more in terms of, obviously, like Gonzaga, too. You worry about their league right now. You worry about it, right? Like, where are they going to be? There's just too many uncertainties with the Gonzaga program beyond the next 3 years. I would say another one you got to look at is Baylor in the top 10 somewhere because of Scott Drew, because of the league, because of the money, all of that. He's not going anywhere. Like, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for stability or an elite program that no matter what happens, they're going to be fine. Like another one that worries me a little bit, Michigan State. What's going to happen? I think Izzo goes maybe 3-5 more years again. And who's next at Michigan State? We don't know that. So that's what I'm kind of worried about with Gonzaga. I would not.
What about
Gonzaga
Kentucky?
Boy, you got to see it first with Pope. Like, I'm not there yet. I'm not there with Kentucky. I'm not there with Louisville. You need to see it, and we've seen the dips with Kentucky, whether it was Bully Clyde Gillespie, whether it was Calipari the last few years. You've seen the dips with Kentucky enough that you worry about whether they're going to keep it at that level. Like, I feel good about Baylor. Like, I don't think Baylor's going to take a big dip, do you, in the next 10 years? Because I don't think Scott Drew's going anywhere. So I think Baylor is going to sustain success over the next 10 years.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Baylor thing. I don't think I'm with you on the Kentucky thing. To be honest, like there's so much uncertainty with all of this stuff. I don't know how many coaches we're going to see do what Bill Self has done, or do what Coach K did, or do what Roy Williams did, and spend 10, 15, 20 years at a specific program, right? Do what Jay Wright did. So I tend to lean towards the programs that have the pedigree when it comes to this conversation, right? I would put
Yeah.
UConn and Alabama at the top, and then I think I round out the rest of my list with Duke and North Carolina and Kentucky and Kansas and those teams that you just know that
All right,
investment is
so
going to be there.
Kentucky to Arizona. Which one are you picking? If you had to pick Kentucky or Arizona for the next 10 years, who are you picking?
Um, I would probably lean towards Kentucky because I don't know if you can guarantee me that Tommy Lloyd is going to be there for the long term. And once Tommy's
Where's he going?
gone,
Where's he going?
I
Where?
don't
He's
know
not going back
what
to
happens if one of these
Gonzaga.
other jobs open up. He to
Where's
me,
he
he strikes me
going?
as
I
the
mean,
kind of guy that could end up going to the NBA if a job opens up, right? Like I feel like he
maybe,
could be a guy
maybe.
that could coach in the
I mean,
league.
you got to get to a Final Four or win a national title to
True.
have the NBA even have you anywhere near their radar.
Yeah, but I'm for me with Arizona, it would be much more tied to who the coach is than who Kentucky is, and I feel who would have guessed 10 years ago that we would be sitting here saying maybe the three best coaches in America are Dan Hurley, Nate Oates, and Scott Drew. Like Scott Drew 10 years ago was a guy we all said could not coach. Nate Oates 10 years ago was literally selling bags of chips in the lunchroom to be able to fund Romulus High trips to tournaments, right? Dan Hurley 10 years ago, was he at Wagner? Was he at Rhode
He
Island
was.
last year?
I think he
Like
was at
no one
Rhode
could
Yeah,
have
he's
predicted
probably at
these
the beginning of
three.
his Rhode Island tenure.
Yeah, like 10 years is just such a long time that I tend to lean towards I would tend to lean towards the programs that are blue bloods. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that I necessarily would have Kentucky above Arizona. Frankly, I'd have both of them in my top 10. Um, but I think that that's kind of where I would go with it. I'd also have Purdue in that conversation as well, get them way up there. And I think we kind of hit on all the big ones. But yeah, it's wild how much can change over the course of the 10 years. Thanks for watching the Field of 68 After Dark. Make sure to hit that like button.